Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Sally Burdett, live from Johannesburg. In your headlines tonight, 3 firefighters died trying to contain a blaze in a downtown Johannesburg government building.
The building was not compliant with the basic regulations.
The big question tonight, could this tragedy have been prevented? Gauteng authorities admit they knew this building and 7 others were not safe. The Gauteng Premier tonight ordering those buildings immediately closed.
I was not aware of any accounting irregularity, what they refer to in the books of Steinhoff.
Former Steinhoff CEO Marcus Jooste denies culpability in the multi-billion rand demise of Steinhoff. He addresses MPs in Parliament today saying he's not to blame. There are serious questions tonight about the safety of government buildings after a fire at the offices of the Department of Health, Housing and Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in downtown Johannesburg. 3 firefighters died while trying to put out the fire. 13 people are in hospital tonight being treated for smoke inhalation. Now, it's still unclear what actually started the fire, but staff members had been warning for some time about poor safety standards. Buildings have to be at least 85% compliant with occupational health and safety regulations. Now, this office block was only 21% compliant. Gauteng Infrastructure Development MEC Jacob Mamabolo visited the site. He was quite open about the safety problems.
We do not deny that not only this building, but about 8. I thought I clarified that last year we commissioned an assessment of 8 government-owned buildings to check all the issues that have been raised about the conditions of the buildings. So that point, I think it's very clear to us there is a problem with government buildings in the provincial government. So we are not in denial about that point. And I think if we have created any impression that we didn't know, that will not be correct, because we're very clear. Otherwise, we will have not commissioned the condition assessment to check very accurately why is it that there are problems with our buildings. So that impression we will not create it. That is why I announced that on the 27th, we have now received a full report about each of the 8 buildings, so we are not in denial about that.
Well, our reporter Slindele Masekane spent the day at the site of that fire. She joins us now. Good evening to you, Slee. Could you give us the very latest? We understand the fire is now out. Have the bodies been removed from the building?
Yes, certainly, Sally. We are still here at the site, and I can confirm that the fire has completely been extinguished. The building has also been evacuated. There is now nobody inside. I'm just going to move out of shot just to give you a view of what we're seeing at the stage. Tando will give you a nice pan. As you can see, we still have emergency services on site. It's just a matter of monitoring and making sure that a blaze does not reignite at this stage. But from the emergency services side, the fire has been extinguished. We also understand that Pixley, Gasehuma, as well as Albertina Sisulu streets will remain closed for the evening and probably most of tomorrow, because of course there is glass on the road coming from the windows which was shattered during the blaze.
Have the 2 bodies of the firefighters who died in the building, we know one tragically slipped and fell to his death, 2 died in the blaze, have those bodies been removed?
Yes, most certainly. Those bodies have been removed. We also understand that, of course, the families are being notified. We are not sure if all the families have been notified at this stage, but all the bodies have been removed. Unfortunately, the one firefighter did fall to his death, while the others suffered from smoke inhalation and other injuries from inside of the building. At this stage, we know that 4 firefighters have also been discharged from hospital, and we know that 2 are in a critical condition. The Gauteng Premier is now currently at Mill Park Hospital to go and see them.
Now, a little earlier this evening, he was at the site and you spoke to him. He spoke about the issue of the non-compliance of this building. Let's just have a listen to what he said about this and other buildings.
We have 7 other buildings, and I have taken a decision that we will have to find temporary accommodation for staff in all those buildings As things stand, we don't know what the cause of the fire is. Fortunately, there's a staff member who was in the room where the fire started. The police are going to interview that staff member who was there. We will know exactly what caused the fire, but in general, we have several buildings that we have been decommissioning. As soon as the report comes out and says this building is not in a good state, we decommission the building.
You know, Slee, I want to ask you a question about this. You've heard what the Premier had to say, but you reported on this very building last Friday, saying that people there had been complaining for years, that a report had just come out, and yet, come Monday morning, people were still walking into that building for work. Do you think the Premier's explanation and that from MEC Mamabelo is actually adequate and sufficient?
I can tell you, Sally, it really does not sound, from the reasons that we received from the government officials, nothing makes sense, Sally. Nothing makes sense. They did say that this report that they commissioned came out on the 27th of August. So I did ask the Premier, if you knew that this particular building was at 21% of compliance, why were people not moved on the 28th? And he could not give me an answer. All they could say was that they're going to give more details as to, what the process is of moving people from the building. But it really seems like it's too little too late, because what the staff were complaining about, that they are unsafe in this building, that they are working under inhumane conditions, has come to fruition. We now have a death toll sitting at 3, which could have been prevented really at this stage, and we expect heads to roll. We understand that, of course, the police will be investigating this matter. We also understand that Nahawu, one of the unions, did go down to the Johannesburg police station to lay charges, and they were told that the police are currently investigating a criminal case.
Thank you so much for giving us the very latest there. That's our reporter at the scene of that tragic fire, Slindile Masekane. And now, of course, to get the very latest on the situation regarding the firefighters who perished and those in hospital, I'm joined now by Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson Nana Khadebe. Good evening, Ms. Khadebe. A very tragic evening, utterly heartbreaking. Do we know how the 3 firefighters died exactly? We know one slipped to his death, the 2 in the building. What happened?
A very difficult day for City of Johannesburg Emergency Services indeed. When the first fire engine arrived, the first crew went in, and when they went in, they were looking for a hydrant, and there was a blaze on the side of the 23rd floor. As they wanted to break the windows and move a bit to where the windows were, one of the firefighters slipped and fell, and he died instantly. The other 2 were left behind as the flames and the roof, part of the roof was collapsing. Some tried to move from there but couldn't, and the other 2 were also died on scene. Now,
it sounds that the other 2 were trapped. Can you assure us tonight that the firefighters were carrying fully equipped safety packs, that they had oxygen and all the equipment they need? And we ask this because this has been an issue in the past.
The firefighters were carrying full equipment. They had their breathing apparatus, and it was full. They had all the firefighting equipment. They were up there to look for hydrant to connect so that they can start with firefighting. Unfortunately, the pressure of the hydrant was low, so they moved to the other side. This is where the fire, the blazes were at, and they couldn't get out from that side.
Well, thank you very much. That was Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson Nana Khadebe just explaining exactly how those firefighters died today. Well, let's move now to Cape Town, and he's the man we've been waiting to hear from for months. Former Steinhoff CEO Marcus Jooste finally explained why the company went into freefall, jeopardizing government pension investments. Well, Jooste says he's not to blame. Lester Kiewit was there when he appeared before a joint parliamentary committee.
It's a meeting 8 months in the making. Finally, former Steinhoff CEO Marcus Jooste appears before a joint parliamentary committee. He's here because more than 1 million government employees' pensions is invested in his former company. When Steinhoff nearly collapsed because of fraud allegations and false inflating of profits, the pensions almost became worthless.
In terms of the biggest corporate scandal, the biggest corporate failure in South Africa, yes. The word scandal is now the writers of sensation, and of course it is saddened about the people that have lost money.
Jooste says mistakes were made. Bad business decisions coupled with business units spread across the world leading to uncoordinated auditing procedures meant the company couldn't post financial results in time.
I feel totally responsible for what happened at Steinhoff, but for the reasons that I've mentioned why it happened. I chose the wrong partner. We went into territories when we shouldn't have gone into territories. But the discussion up to now and the allegations were fostered around accounting issues.
MPs are now calling on state bodies to intensify probes into the Steinhoff saga.
What we're simply saying is Parliament can do so much. But really, ultimately, it's the regulators and the Hawks and the NPA that must simply do their jobs.
The Hawks is expected to update Parliament on the Steinhoff investigations in 2 weeks. Lester Kivet, Parliament.
In other news, DA leader Musi Maimane has announced Ngababanga as the party's Eastern Cape premier candidate for the 2019 elections. Ngababanga is the current leader for the party in the Eastern Cape. He was originally a member of COPE, but according to Maimane, moved to the DA in 2014 after interacting with ousted Nelson Mandela Bay Mayor Athol Trollip on the, quote, urgent need for change in the province. Stay with us on eNews. Ahead, at least 10 people confirmed dead following a powerful typhoon in western Japan. And of course, your money news with Mateo.
Well, the market was in the red today and the rand continued to struggle. That breakdown after the break.
Let's talk money now with Mateo Gripek. Good evening, Mateo. Growth forecasts, of course, down after the recession news. Tell us more.
This is really the reactions of what we're expecting coming out from this recession. And then international banks, the first to react, Goldman Sachs yesterday already coming out to say they are revising our growth from 2.4% to about 0.8%. So quite negative going into the end of the year. And this is a bank during when the President Cyril Ramaphosa was elected. They really backed him and said, look, we trust your policies and what you've got planned, but now in terms of growth, they're not so sure. Merrill Lynch today, another United States bank, coming out and saying they're revising growth as well and seeing South Africa's growth grow to about 0.9% this year and about 1.5% next year. What they're basically saying is that as the ratings agencies look at South Africa, they'd want to see more growth from South Africa and they want to see that the policies that were promised will be delivered. We know we have a midterm coming up, and that for Nhlanhla Nene to explain to the rest of the world how the stimulus package is really going to up the economy and find us in a space, at least towards the end of the year, where we rely mostly on retail and consumers to spend. How are we going to grow the rest of the economy? So it's really a tight space for them to move in, and as soon as they come back from China with the president, Nhlanhla Nene will have to explain at least how that stimulus package is going to see South Africans go forward.
He's going to have his work cut out. From quick look at the markets, and 20 rand to the pound. Not a great day. Not a great day. We're still seeing some pressure from the all share as well, going down more than 1%. Industrials also down more than close to 2% there, and that's because the United States is still expected to put more sanctions on China. Financials were down by 0.5% as the rand struggled. Sibanye gold was up today, and that buoyed the gold share there, and platinum in terms of implants were also buoyed by those shares from those companies, and that was up 3.5%. Resources closing the day down on the day. A tough day for the rand, of course, touching 15 rand 41 against the dollar today. But those numbers that you need to look at is that euro at 17 rand 91, at 1 point close to 18 rand against the euro. And today touching 20 rand against the pound, is currently fighting back now at 19 rand 89 cents.
The gold price is at $1,198 an ounce, and platinum also impressing the market a little bit with those companies that went up in share value, with Brent crude at $77.32 a barrel.
Matteo, thank you so much. So important for all of us to keep an eye on those numbers. Well, let's take a quick look at international news. At least 10 people now confirmed dead in Japan due to the typhoon. The country's major airport has been closed. Thousands of people have been evacuated. Airport companies are now transferring stranded passengers by boat from flooded airports. Typhoon Jebi is the most powerful storm to hit Japan in 25 years. Not yet clear when roads, airports and train stations will be opened. Weather news now, and it's down to Cape Town, and Louis Fernandez we go. Good evening, Louis. That picture behind you is astounding, because here in Gauteng we have spent the day sweltering through 30-degree heat.
Well, Sally, yesterday I promised you that we would see some really strange weather over the next couple of days, and this is just the start of it. We've already had snow in the Western Cape for today, and there is more snow in the cards over the next couple of days. But let's get into the forecast for tomorrow. It's quite a busy one. We're going to have the cold front continue slowly moving further into the interior of South Africa. There will still be snow around over parts of the Western and Northern Cape in particular. Wet weather is going to start developing over the Northern Cape and into the Eastern Cape, becoming very wet for parts of that province during the second half of the day. And ahead of this cold front, very gusty on the high veld. That does include Gauteng, but another hot day expected for the northeastern corner of the country. Wintry weather for the Northern Cape on your Thursday. Snowfalls likely in the south, in particular along the border with the Western Cape. But ahead of the cold front, Kimberley gets to a maximum of 21 degrees. That front will only reach the area later on. Cold and wet into the Western Cape as showers continue to affect the area. Beaufort West reaching a maximum of only 8 degrees, and there will be snow just to the north of the town. For the Eastern Cape, we'll see progressively wetter weather taking place as the day goes on. There is also a potential that we could see heavy rain taking place over this province during the afternoon and evening. And in KwaZulu-Natal, still hot for the northern interior, cooler along the coastline, and a few showers potentially reaching the south as well. In Mpumalanga, it's going to be a warm to hot day over this province, 29 as a high for Ermelo and eMalahleni, and for Limpopo. Sunny weather continuing, temperatures rising above the 30-degree mark once again all across this province. Hot and windy weather expected into the northwest, and then in the evening there could be a few drops of rain reaching Vryburg, and some rain also creeps into the western Free States during the evening hours. Bloemfontein, you're mostly dry, but late at night you could also receive a few drops. And finally for Gauteng, no rain just yet, partly cloudy weather on your Thursday, and it's going to be a hot and windy day. Let's take a look ahead to your conditions for Friday, and we're going to have thunder showers developing in the northern parts, including Gauteng. That will cool you guys down by a couple of degrees. Much colder over the western parts, very wet for the garden route, and snow likely for the mountainous areas in the Cape provinces. Saturday brings more snow to some of the mountainous parts, a very wet day for parts of the Eastern Cape, and thunder showers possible in KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and Limpopo. That's all from the Weather Centre. Sally, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Louis. You stay warm there in Cape Town. And finally, while we feel the effects of the recession and look for ways to cut costs, others are forming meaningful relationships with bread. A South African vlogger has posted a video mocking the price of gluten-free bread at a local retailer. In the video, Devon Saunders discusses the price and asks whether the bread was fact baked by Jesus. The clip has now gone viral on social media.
So today's my first day on the diet, and I thought, let me come to Woods and buy me gluten-free bread. I get here and this bread is 54 Rand. Like, did Jesus break this bread? 54 Rand for this midget size of a bread. Woolworths, like, imagine I gave this to Jesus to ask him to perform a miracle and feed people. He'd be like, nah bruh, I can't. Sure.
Woolworths, I just got off the phone with my financial advisor. He opened up my savings pocket so I could buy the bread for 54 Rand. Now, I don't know if I should eat the bread or put it on my TV cabinet.
Right now, you're in the midst of a celebration of life, death, and the stars of our ancestors.
Glutenisha, I love it. Now, Woolworths has responded to the video with its own jibe on Twitter. The tweet pleads with Saunders to treat the bread well, Glutenisha as we now call her, and offers to reunite her with her family of other gluten-free products on its shelves. Before we go, let's recap your top story this evening. Tragic news, 3 firefighters died trying to contain a blaze in a downtown Joburg government building. Gauteng authorities admit they knew this building and 7 others were not safe. They've been now immediately closed.